Welcome to the Beginner Yoga Series with Global Oasis Yoga. This is the Track 2 Foundations class, the first of 4 classes in our Beginner Yoga series. If you are already active with fitness classes, running, lifting, cycling, but new to yoga, you are in the right place. If you are new to yoga and movement in general, Track 1 is the path you want to take, and you'll find a link for those videos in the written description below this video. Here in Track 2, you don't need to be flexible, but you do need to be patient with yourself. You'll be learning body control and mobility in a new movement language that might feel a little bit slower than what you're used to, but it may also feel awkward in the beginning. This is completely optional, but we will begin seated on the mat. And if you think that you might benefit from a bolster pillow or a rolled up blanket under your hips, hit pause and grab that now. If you choose to use the bolster pillow, make sure that you're not placing it under your thighs. You only want it under your sit bones. In that way, you are elevating your hips to be a little bit higher than your knees. All right, so come to seated in a nice cross-legged pose with or without a bolster. And let's begin with our eyes closed. Breathing in traditional yoga is done in and out the nostrils, which may feel a little bit different to other types of fitness that you're used to. So let's just practice that now. Place your hands on your lower belly and take a few inhales and exhales through the nose. As you take your first inhale, concentrate on trying to make the lower belly expand on your inhale. Draw the breath all the way to the top, and then as you exhale, concentrate on trying to make the lower body contract. Let's do that a few more times. Inhaling through the nose, expanding the lower belly. And as you exhale, contract the lower belly. When we expand our lower belly on the inhales, we're using more of our diaphragm to help us breathe, which oftentimes only gets utilized up to 10% of its full capacity, or as little as 10% of its full capacity. Continuing to breathe here, inhaling and exhaling through the nose and focusing on expanding that lower belly as we inhale and contracting as we exhale. One more. Wonderful. You can keep your eyes closed if you'd like, or slowly blink them open. We're going to begin by rolling our head in one direction or the other, being gentle with the neck. Change directions. Wonderful. Release that, and let's move the shoulders, rolling them back a few times here. And rolling them forward. Place the hands on the knees and let's circle the torso over the hips. Rolling in one direction. and change the direction. Coming back to neutral, make your way into hands and knees or tabletop position. When you get there, you want the hips directly stacked above the knees and the shoulders directly above the wrists. In yoga, we do place quite a bit of weight on the hands, so in order to preserve our wrists, it's important to distribute the weight equally between the full surface area that's touching the mat. So that means our fingertips, knuckles, knuckle pads, and the base of our palms. Okay, so pressing into the mat with the full finger and your fingertips, palms, and so forth. The hands are spread a little bit wide. And let's take a few rounds of a cat-cow. If you're not familiar, what that looks like is rounding the spine for cat, tucking the chin to the chest, also tucking the tailbone a little bit, and working the shoulder blades away from one another on the back. For cow pose, we inhale, we drop the chest in between the shoulders, we arch the spine, and our gaze lifts slightly. The sit bones are reaching for the space above you. On the exhale, take another round of cat pose, rounding the spine, tucking tailbone. Inhale, lower the chest, arch the spine. One more round. Exhale, round the spine. And inhale, arch the spine. Rounding the back just enough so that it comes to neutral again. Let's find thread the needle. Shift the weight into the left hand, and the right fingertips become light, and then you inhale as you lift the right arm up towards the sky, twisting the upper back to do so. And then lower on the exhale, weave the hand underneath or in between the left arm and the left knee, lowering down onto the right shoulder. Stretching the back of the shoulder here. If you find that your hips have shifted off to the left, try to bring them back towards center. Continuing to breathe here through the nose. And then gently unwind from there back to your tabletop shape, and let's take that on side two. Shift the weight into the right hand. Sweep the left arm high on your inhale. Let the gaze follow the left hand. And then on your exhale, weave it through, lower down onto the left shoulder. Rest the head on the mat. Bring the hips back to center. And find that stretch in the outer left shoulder this time. Release from there on the inhale and come back to your tabletop. We're going to make our way into our first downward facing dog. Most fitness practitioners have heard of downward facing dog. If you are not familiar, you want to come onto the balls of the feet and then press into the mat with equal distribution in your hands and begin to lift the knees and straighten the legs. So your hips are rocking back towards the heels and your legs work towards straight. They don't have to be all the way straight. Okay? And our arms are fully extended and we're pushing the mat away with our hands. So what that means is that eventually, it may not be today, but eventually you want to try to get your armpits as close to the ears as they possibly can, as opposed to your elbows. All right? Again, equal distribution of weight in the hands. And you're lengthening through the lower back, and the sit bones are reaching for the ceiling or the sky. Your heels are working towards reaching the mat. That may not be today or ever. They're just taking the action of reaching for the mat. Breathing here in your downward facing dog. If you would like to take a break anytime during class, you can come into what is called child's pose, which looks like this. I'm going to demonstrate. You can stay in your downward facing dog if you want. A child's pose looks like this. All right, so continue in your down dog, a few more breaths. If you're in child's pose, come back to downward facing dog and then onto the balls of the feet and slowly walk the feet to meet the hands. Once you get to the top, roll all the way to standing and roll the shoulders back. Let's begin our more fluid movement of practice today. We're going to find what is called a sun salutation. I'm going to demonstrate first, and then you can join in with me, or you can join in with me now if you'd like. Feet are hip width distance apart to begin. Shoulders are rolled open. And as we inhale, we lift the arms overhead and allow the gaze to follow. On the exhale, we forward fold and let the head hang. On the inhale, we extend the spine straight. So now our chest is parallel to the ground and the crown of our head is reaching forward. And then on your next exhale, we come back into a forward fold. We bend deep into the knees, plant the hands, and step back to a high plank position. Okay? Next, as you exhale, you go from your high plank position to a low plank position, or high push-up to low push-up. That can be with the knees lifted, or always can be with the knees lowered. Your choice. Lowering down from your high push-up to low push-up, gazing forward as you lower. Once you get there, you can come all the way down to the belly. Keep the hands on the mat next to the rib cage and inhale to lift into cobra position. So this is a back bend. So you're squeezing your glutes to protect the spine, pressing into the mat, and lifting the head, chest, and rib cage. Straightening the arms as much or as little as you would like, okay? Option 2 is to come from your high push-up to your low push-up, and then rock the body forward, keeping the thighs lifted, and find upward dog. Okay, so the thighs are lifted here, shoulders are directly above the wrists, and the gaze is forward. Next, we're making our way back to a downward facing dog. So whether you're on the ground in your cobra or in your upward facing dog, you're going to engage the core. Use the hips and the core to draw yourself back into that downward facing dog shape. Again, knees bent or as straight as they would like to be. Come onto the balls of the feet again. Walk the feet to meet the hands at the top of the mat. Inhale to find that halfway lift with the spine extended. Exhale to find your forward fold. On your next inhale, rise to stand. At the top, we sweep the arms up overhead. And then our exhale, our hands come down by the sides. That is one sun salutation. Okay, and if you noticed, we're coordinating our breath with our movement. So that doesn't mean that every time we breathe, inhale or exhale, we're moving. It just that means that when we move, we're coordinating that with an inhale or an exhale. Let's repeat that sun salutation one more time before we move on. Inhale the arms overhead. Exhale, find your forward fold. Inhale, extend the spine, halfway lift. Keep the core engaged here. As you exhale, plant the hands on the mat, bend deep into the knees, and step back to your high plank or plank on the knees. In plank, of course, we don't want our hips lifted too high or too low. We do want our shoulder blades to separate from one another so that our shoulders are protracted here. And then as we exhale, lower all the way down to the mat or come to your low push-up. And then on your inhale, find your cobra or your upward facing dog with the thighs lifted. Exhale, use the hips and the core to draw yourself back to a downward facing dog position. Gripping the mat with those fingertips, roll the shoulders open, working the heels in the direction of the mat. Sit bones lifted and making distance between your wrists and the side body. So pushing the mat away from you and trying to get your armpits close to your ears. You're also working on pressing your chest towards the thighs. A couple more breaths here. Come onto the balls of the feet. Walk the feet to meet the hands. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, find your forward fold. And inhale, bend into the knees and come all the way back up. Inhale the arms up overhead and exhale the hands by the sides. Beautiful. All right, let's move on. We're going to learn Warrior One. Shift the weight into your left foot. Hips are square to the top of the mat. The right toes become light. Once you feel steady, step back into a high lunge, okay? 90-degree bend in the left knee. And then rotate the right foot so that it's at a 45-degree angle and flat. So now the back foot is flat and the toes are pointed towards the right corner of the mat. Deep bend in that front leg. You want to square your rib cage off to the top of the mat. Your shoulders are also squared to the top of the mat. Hands can be at the waist here, or if you're feeling stable, you can inhale the arms overhead and allow the gaze to follow the hands. Warrior One. Continuing to breathe through the nose. Find a nice big inhale. And as you exhale, we're going to find Warrior Two. What that looks like is we open the arms wide. We twist the torso to the right, okay? So now our hips and our chest are facing the long side of the mat. We extend the arms and the left fingertips are in front of you. You're gazing over the left fingertips. You're also working on drawing the collarbones away from one another. Your shoulders are stacked directly above the hips here. And if you look down, you should be able to see your left big toe. If you can't see your left big toe, it could be that your left knee is collapsing in towards the mat. You need to draw that knee back open. Activate the arms so that they're working just as hard as the legs, hugging the triceps to the bone here. Warrior Two. Take a break if you'd need to. You can bend that, straighten the front leg. You can find child's pose anytime. This is your class. And you are in charge of how your body is feeling today. Next, we're going to find a side angle pose. So what that's going to look like is we're taking our left elbow to the left knee. Now, we're not allowing our weight to fall into that elbow. It's not a resting place. It's more of just a support. Our right arm is coming up over the right ear and reaching to the top of the mat. Again, your left arm, your left elbow should still be light here. The work is happening in your side body and obviously still in the quad of the left leg. Your chest is rolling open towards the long side of the mat still, as opposed to down towards the mat. This is side angle. A couple more breaths here. And then use the strength of your core and your side body to come all the way back to warrior two, just for a brief moment. I know my left leg is on fire. And then rotate the hips back towards the top of the mat. Find your warrior one more time. Chest is square to the top of the mat as well. And then shorten your stance a little bit or kick off the back foot and come to the top of the mat. Let's do that same sequence on one side, on the second side, and then we'll slow things down a little bit. Shift the weight into the right leg. Find a focal point that you can look at to help you get your balance. And either slide or step the left foot behind you, finding that high lunge. The back foot rotates flat and the back toes are pointed towards the left corner of the mat. So your foot is at a 45-degree angle. The rib cage is squared off to the top of the mat. Hands can be at the hips, or you can lift the arms. Strong and steady back leg. So keep that back leg as active as the front as well. And if your arms are lifted, the arms are also active. Breathing here, inhaling and exhaling through the nose. Find a nice big inhale. And then on your exhale, open it up into warrior two. Again, hips rotate to the long side of the mat. Big toe on the right foot should be visible. Shoulders stacked directly above the hips. So not leaning too far forward or too far back. Fingertips are reaching away from one another. The weight should be in the outer edge of your left foot, of the back foot, okay? But it should also be equally distributed between the front and the back foot. Warrior two. And now let's find that side angle pose. Right elbow, right knee, gently resting, reaching the left arm over the head towards the top of the mat. The palm is facing down. The chest is rolled open and facing the long side of the mat to the left. Elbow is light. Side angle. One more breath here. Taking rest when you need it is part of yoga, so find a child's pose or straighten that front leg if you'd like. Find your warrior two one more time. If you're wobbling, it means you're doing it right. You're gaining muscle and control in your wobbles. Just in spite of your wobbles, I should say. And now warrior one, square off the hips back to the top of the mat. Still have a deep bend in that front leg. One more breath here. And then step the feet together at the top of the mat. Wonderful. Shake it out here. We're going to do a couple more standing poses and then we will find our way down to the mat. Feet are hip width distance. We're gonna come into chair pose, all right? Keep the weight in the heels here, bend deep into the knees, and hands can sweep above the head next to the ears. Arms can sweep up next to the ears, or you can also place the hands on the hips here. Look down, make sure you can see your big toes. If not, pull the knees back a little bit and sit a little bit deeper. You can also bring the hands to touch at the chest. This is chair pose. We'll be here for another 3, 2, and 1. Straighten the legs, find a forward fold. Allow the head to hang heavy. Take a couple of breaths here. Find a deep bend in the knees. Vertebrae by vertebrae, roll all the way up to standing. Shoulders roll open. And let's find a balance pose. We're gonna do tree pose today, all right? So shift the weight into one leg or another. It doesn't matter which one you start with, but what tree pose looks like is, first stage, bringing the sole of the leg that's gonna lift to the ankle of the other leg. Option 2, if that feels simple and you want to try something a little more tricky, draw the foot up to the inside of the calf. You can also reach down, grab the foot and place it on the inside of the thigh. Wherever you are, you want that knee pointed at a 90-degree angle to the side, okay? Keeping your focal point at a stationary object in front of you is going to help with your balance, as is engaging the core. Breathing here. Hands can be also at the waist, or you can lift the arms above the head. And as you're ready, lowering down with control, shake it out, and let's find side 2. Shift weight into the standing leg, find your focal point, gaze softly at it so we're not intently staring at the focal point. Find your level of choice and begin to bring that bottom of the foot to the standing leg, wherever it wants to land. Again, opening the hip so that the bent knee is pointed at a 90-degree angle to the top of the mat. One more breath here. And then gently setting everything down with control. Step the legs wide. Point the toes out just a little bit. Let's find a straddle forward fold. Hands come to the hips, hinge at the waist, and forward fold. You can allow the head to be heavy and hang. Hands can stay at the waist, or if you'd like, you can place them on the mat, lined up with the feet. Breathing here. One more breath. Heel toe the feet just a little bit closer together. They're still wider than hip width distance. And let's find what's called a yogi squat. Bend deep into the knees, lower the hips, draw the chest forward, and then place the hands behind you and come down to seated. Extend the legs long. Let's find forward fold, seated on the mat. Our legs are still active. Our calves are engaged, our thighs are engaged, and our feet are flexed here. Walk the hands down the legs, draw the chest towards the top of the mat, lengthening the spine, keeping the gaze lifted to help your spine stay straight here. Breathing in your forward fold. You should find length happening just below the glutes at the back of the thighs. And now make your way all the way down to the back. Rolling down vertebrae by vertebrae. We're going to do one last twist before we close down our class. Bring the right knee towards the chest, hug it in. Open the right arm out to a T. Draw the right knee across the body to the left. And take the gaze in the opposite direction. We'd like for our right shoulder to remain relaxed on the mat. So if you find that as you twist, your right shoulder starts to lift off the ground or the mat, support that knee with a blanket or a pillow under the knee so that your shoulder can rest and relax. Engage the core, unwind from your twist, and let's take that to the second side. Bend the left knee, draw the left knee towards the chest, open left arm to a T, and take the twist. Head turns in the direction of the left hand. Gently unwind from there. Extend both legs long. Take the feet as wide as the mat. Arms come down by the sides. We're taking our final resting pose, or Shavasana. There's a couple different goals in Shavasana, but one of them is to completely relax the muscles, letting any tension go, getting rid of any heaviness. One of the second goals of Shavasana is to exercise our minds to stay focused. So we've just exercised our bodies, and now we're going to work on strengthening our mind muscles to stay present. One way to do that is to give yourself a full body scan mentally and take notice. See where you're subconsciously holding on to a little bit of a contraction in the muscle, and allow it to release even further. Another way to stay mentally focused is to focus on your breathing, noticing your belly expanding on the inhales and contracting on the exhales. We'll just be here for a few more seconds in silence. Try to stay present mentally and savor this moment of stillness. Begin to gently move the fingers and the toes. Draw the feet together. Bend the knees. Draw the knees towards the chest. Give yourself a nice hug. And then to come to seated, roll off to one side. press the top hand into the mat and come all the way back up. Hey, congratulations on making it through to the end of this foundations class and beginning your yoga journey. I post one new class per week and I rotate levels, which means that if you're watching this video right after it's been uploaded, you'll see the second in this series in 3 weeks. If that seems like a long time, just remember that muscle memory occurs when your nervous system starts to recognize what's ahead. So if this class felt good, repeat it 2 to 3 times a week over the next several weeks, and you'll begin to notice something different every time. There are also several other beginner and more complex leveled classes on my channel that you can explore in the meantime as well. I'd love to hear how you feel after finishing this video, so leave me a comment below, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Have a great day.